And now we're actually going to be getting ahead into game number 3. And for that, we've got Hindu and Tolly to take it away.
Thanks so much, Taco. Yes, me and Tully are ready for Dignitas versus Old Dignitas, now known as the Lion Guard as well. Well, this is going to be an exciting game because it is the Old Dig versus New.
That's true. We have the huge momentum of Variety's new team, now known as Team Dignitas, having such a powerhouse roster behind them as we're going to head into picks and bans. They've been developing a lot of different strategies, flexing a lot of things for Variety in that solo lane. And Lion Guard Esports, off of the Old Dignitas members, like you mentioned, between Ducky, ShadowNightmare, and FrostiaK, they're going to have to try to find a way to shut down the new Dignitas roster.
Now, obviously, over in Europe, we've seen a lot of different things starting to happen as time goes on. Some triple Guardians, 2 Hunter starts, like we just saw at Valence. But not all the teams are doing that. Lion Guard like to mix things up as well. They're going to take away Nemesis. That's an interesting choice there. Not something we've seen too often.
It's a good idea to try to make sure that you don't have to worry about getting countered if you're going to do this kind of Guardian composition coming out of FrostiaK. He likes to run sometimes Guardians into that jungle role as well. Ducky not normally known for playing Cabrakan, so more than likely going to go into the jungle.
I think it's one of the reasons we see the Nemesis ban as well, is because Cabrakan in the jungle, it can be shut down by Nemesis, removing all the protections that the Guardian naturally has on them. And that is something that Twig has run time and time again in the past. But they are going to run into Sylvanus and Poseidon now. Cabrakan does struggle a little bit with the fact that he has to charge at people for whirlpools for free damage, and if he sets up in Tremors, he can get shut down with big old Kraken.
I like the idea also of taking the Poseidon with the Sylvanus, so now Sylvanus is going to be able to freely roam in the earlier stages, not having to worry about that whirlpool Kraken. But surprisingly enough, picking into this Poseidon is the Vulcan and the Hercules. Backfire is going to get negated by the cripple as well. It's a driving strike.
Lion Guard's composition here is a bit suspect, I want to say, especially with Vulcan Hercules. Whirlpools really do impact him a hell of a lot.
But at the same time, it's also being set up by the Cabrakan ultimate. I feel like Lion Guard are setting themselves up almost like do or die at this point already. With Cabrakan ultimate, they're trying to land a lot of abilities in that little circle, or semicircle rather. They're throwing the boulder, throwing the meatballs as well. Lion Guard really needs to get off the chain combo.
Well, surprisingly, I love Team Dignitas going to ban Ratatoska and Susano. They don't believe that Cabrakan is going to be in the jungle here. They think he's going to be solo lane with those focus bans on assassins.
It's not a bad idea. You take away multiple options here. Ratatoska and Susano could be flexed a little bit, but with Hercules and Cabrakan, it's just going to be strictly the jungle side. Izanami and Uller taken away by Lion Guard Esports. It's going to be responded with the Rama, great late game hyper carry physical hunter.
And then Neith in response from Lion Guard as well. So it does look like they're trying to set things up potentially for the mid lane here. If this is going to be a solo lane pick potentially, at the end, no, it's Khepri, so it's Hercules solo. Cabrakan is in the jungle. I'm surprised Dignitas didn't really think that they really thought it was going to be potentially Hercules support, Cabrakan solo, clearly with their bans.
Yeah, definitely. That was looking like to be the case, but with this Khepri very defensive minded as Lion Guard Esports, it's going to be very aggressive as FrostiaK coming from that Cabrakan jungle with the support from the Khepri. He's going to be able to do even more damage and also get out of trouble during the Tremors. He's going to be sitting duck, and that's something that Poseidon really wants to take advantage of by throwing that Kraken out there.
Yeah, Lion Guard's composition looks pretty strong on paper, but at the same time, it's going to be a little bit more tricky to execute than that of Team Dignitas's. Wider circles, first of all, obviously on the first 3 characters you can see on Dignitas' lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how Team Dignitas start roaming around together in that jungle side. They're going to need to figure out ways to utilize their AoE ultimates between QvoFred as well as Zyrhoes with that Kraken.
Well, in the solo lane, Lion Guard going to start off for Ducky and the Hercules. He's going to be picking up Sunder to begin the game as well. Sunder's one of these things that we've seen picked up a couple of times from the solo lanes. I've not really seen it utilized as well as I expected in the beginning.
But it's also an upgraded Sunder right off the bat. It's Bluestone with that upgraded Sunder. It's going to allow the target that you hit with it to be amplified by not 15%, but by 30%. And at level 1, especially in a small 2v2 skirmish, that 30% is very detrimental.
Well, when you've got a Cabrakan as well that could come into play with that. Cabrakan Hercules combo with a driving strike and a stun. Ooh, they could eat a lot. Talking about eating a lot, the duo lane trading back and forth as you're due to expect at the beginning of the game, where both teams vie for positioning. Neith alongside Khepri should have a little bit more push power than Rama and Trixtank. Oh, sorry, Rama and Trixtank. Rama and Sylvanus, I should say. Even though they've got a Sylvanus there, the clear is relatively even, but Neith is a little bit better.
At this point in time, it's a little even Ducky having to defend his own blue buff Variety, making sure that he's not going to be able to take that off the table. And with the Sylvanus Ram able to outclear this Neith Khepri, they're going to start invading some of these little babies. They're going to get level 2 once they kill one more.
Yep, they need to kill 3 little babies in the jungle, and that guarantees them the level 2 spike straight back to to lane for lane pressure once more. And talking about pressure, Dignitas in the solo lane are also going to steal away the blue. But Frezzyy taking a lot more poke than he would have liked there. He's been forced to meditate early, and more disadvantages for Line Guard.
But right-hand side, FrostiaK was able to invade the speed. Variety's taking a lot
Sunder
of
was
damage.
used.
That's one in hand, and that's
what you
first
do.
blood. Calculated play out of Ducky. You can clearly tell he's been practicing this strategy a lot if he's feeling very confident to run this in the SPL.
And the fact is, at level 2, you do have the burst potential with especially Hercules to be able to bring down a kill with an upgraded Sunder as well. So the risk investment of this Sunder early on, the 500 gold invested into it on top of the relic purchase, has paid off because he's got the gold back in first blood.
Absolutely. And not only that, the fact that he baited out the Fearless, that once you get Fearless, the archers are going to start helping your side. And a level 1, level 2 tier can't full clear the wave. So that's very advantageous for Ducky to allow himself to get Fearless, have the archers on his side, and then continue to use that to his credit to be able to get that first blood.
Well, Dignitas do invade the red buff there, as you saw, but Lion God did a good job of pushing the wave into tower to slow down their experience gain, which has allowed FleuryQ to stay even with Arkkyl in the lane right now. Frezzy's the one a little bit behind, as the right and elementals as well did go the way of Dignitas on top of that. But Lion God are the ones doing better in terms of gold, which is all down to that first blood.
It's very important to get off to an early game start. Trixtank, though, doing a good job buying time. Using the abduct is Frezzyy, but FleuryQ having to use his root on the wave, making sure that he got the golden experience. He didn't want to get too poked out. He could have used it onto Trixtank to get more damage, maybe find a kill, but then eventually those archers were going to start hurting really badly at this stage.
And now in the solo lane, the Sunder is about to come up again as well. So Variety has to be very respectful of the combo, as does Ducky, I guess, getting a lot more poke than he intended. Bluestone ticks are important, and Variety positioned himself perfectly with that Fearless. Meanwhile, on the left, the Kraken comes into play. That's mainly to try and secure the Oracles more than anything else, and Zyrhoes managed to secure one of the two. No free ward for Lion Guard this time round.
That's the one disadvantage with the start that Ducky did. He didn't have the boots, one, to really get away from Variety. Not only that, during the pull push, that's the second one that he missed. The driving strike just not on the mark for Ducky during the laning phase after that first blood. And now Variety with level 5, Warrior Tab be finished. This is going to be a good opportunity for him to find that power spikes play yet again.
Yeah, definitely, even though the gold income was in favor of Lion Guard there, the experience was definitely all Dignitas, with the invades coming out in the blue and the red buff as well. And now, because of that, Variety's finding himself at level 5, while Ducky is about to ding it in lane and the next couple of minions coming through.
Looking like both teams still trying to figure out what they want to do. That was an interesting little Kraken from Zyrhoes around those oracles on the left-hand side, trying to split and making sure that the vision wouldn't be in control from Lion Guard right off the bat. Normally, you don't want to blow an ultimate this stage of the game for such a small objective, but Smite's about a game of inches, and every little bit counts. The only thing that you have to worry about is taking the next team fight while your ultimate's on cooldown.
Well, 4 members of Dignitas were grouped around those elementals there. As you saw, Trixtank was looking for a cheeky little pull over the wall and the right and Harpies to try and bring someone out of position and find a free pick. In the end, not this time round, though, as FleuryQ is about to go back to base from the duo lane here. Looks like he's going to be going for the Transcendent start, which we've seen a little bit more often this season. So a little bit more crit today, though, Tolly, as well.
That's what you really want to do out of Neith, to get that Transcendence, have more physical power, make sure the scaling of your World Weaver is going to be able to hit that much harder. Looking like Ducky's going to be able to find the Sunder under the tower, taking a lot of damage into
a reverse gank as well. Fear no evil over the wall, but the Spirit Arrow coming through onto QvoFred immediately just walks away from it. Didn't panic with the beats, though, there, QvoFred, but did drop his ult defensively. Everybody survives, but it's a 3v3 in solo lane now.
Going to favor out Team Dignitas with the sustain from Trixtank, still having that huge ultimate. 2 ultimates were burned, FleuryQ and FrostiaK, but Dignitas, they're going to wrap around. Speed and Blue are respawning for Lion Guard. That's a huge advantage for Team Dignitas, electing to look for a little bit of poke before they fully commit, because they're afraid of the rotation and the Earth Shaker of Shadow.
Definitely, because you could just come over the wall and you're not going to see that one coming at all. FleuryQ focusing on clearing the wave more often than fighting Arkkyl here, which is not a bad idea to do in the early stages. His wave clear is a little bit stronger, so he can catch up, get ahead of Arkkyl by rotating into the jungle early on and finding the buffs.
And this is not a power spike for FleuryQ to take the fight quite yet, up until that Transcendence has been finished. Once some stacks come online, Arkkyl is going to be able to not only engage offensively with his mobility superiority with the Warrior Tabby, but he's also going to just be able to run away from FleuryQ at any time he wants.
Zyrhoes in the mid lane been pretty quiet so far, other than the Kraken on the Oracles earlier on, just continuing to farm up his his build. He really was one of the first ones that really enjoyed doing this Bombers combination. Talking about combination, there's Ducky doing great work. Bluestone Pendant 6, is that enough? Not today, my friend. Ducky didn't have the damage there. If he had that Sunder up, totally could have been a different story.
During the pull push, there was 10-second cooldown during the Sunder. Just now coming off cooldown is the Sunder with the teleport coming from a variety. He comes back into the lane with that silver breastplate, going to have even more defenses. And as the stage for the laning phase of Soul Lane progresses forward, we're going to see Tier at level 9 having that maxed out power cleave, and all that pull coming out of Ducky is just going to be negated.
It got negated there. You can see that actually Tier comes back to lane, teleports in. Ducky's going to go back to base because he's at health and mana too, and he loses a whole wave to the tower where Tier's like, okay, cool, I'm okay with this. It cost me Lawbringer and I still outclear you.
And all he's going to do is continue to put on the pressure with this kind of advantage on the defensive side. We see going back into lane is Ducky without any sort of physical protection though. Frezzyy looking like he was thinking about abducting offensively, but just poking him out.
So offensively, Variety and Ducky still going at it there. Mid lane has been generally quite quiet, just a farm up pretty much between ShadowNightmare and Zyrhoes for the time being. The Gold Fury's attention will be turned to eventually by both these two teams, but they're both going to be so respectful of the amount of ultimates that can really impact that.
Here it goes, Lion Guard. They're thinking about doing the Gold Fury. They could have potentially looked to drop a turret around there, which would have amplified their DPS quite heavily. Neith having the red buff and Transcendence does a lot of damage this early in the game, and 7-minute Gold Fury is relatively easy to take out.
Fair no evil in mid lane. Got a hit onto Frezzyy here. Kraken didn't really do that much work as the World Weaver comes through from FleuryQ onto Qvo to stop him continuing the aggression. FrostiaK looked to answer back a little bit there, but it was 3 ults used there by Dignitas in favor of just the one on Lion Guard.
Frezzyy very confident, 1% health, holding on to his ultimate during that whole encounter. Zyrhoes a little bit off the mark there with his ultimate. Would have liked to see him position it a little bit more efficiently during that team fight with that Fear No Evil knocking people away.
Well, this time around, Sunder is available. Ducky found the juggle, but so did Variety, and Ducky uses his full combo. Variety is fine, solos him again. That's 2 for 1 for you keeping track at home. The first one to Ducky, but 2 in a row for Variety.
Not really a big fan of the Variety's Tier. Is Ducky taking 2 spills already very early in the game, not even 8 minutes quite yet. Nice little double root onto Team Dignitas, or sorry, onto Lion Guard, but not able to really capitalize with a pull.
I love what they did there, Dignitas. So they expected Trixtank to find that pull, drop the Whirlpool at Trix's feet, as well as the overhand smash was primed as well. It wasn't enough to find the kill, but it was a good idea and shows that they're on the same page.
And that's what you need to do with your teammates. You have to have the confidence in your teammates' ability to land these kinds of pulls and roots and stuff like that. Whether or not they do hit it, you have to prepare yourself for the follow-up, whether or not it actually exists. They don't put themselves too far out of position by even using those 2 abilities for what could have been a great play.
Well, we touched a little bit earlier on the Hunter builds coming out. Transcendence now online for FleuryQ and stacking. Meanwhile, Arkkyl looks like he's going for the Devourer's Gauntlets in this one as well. And the biggest thing about Hunter builds right now is it's all down to the kind of Hunter you are. Are you ability-based? Are you late game? Are you early game? That actually influences their builds a lot more this season than we've seen in previous, because normally it was more of a cookie-cutter situation.
FleuryQ on the Neith. It's very easy for him to get away with his Transcendence, but getting pulled under the tower, double knock-up under the tower. Fear No Evil as well. FrostiaK, though, still surviving for a little bit longer.
Oh, Zyrhoes held the Kraken there. Not sure if he wanted to, or was the fact he was just too under mana to be able to throw the Kraken after the Whirlpool there. But it would have been a kill on FrostiaK there, unless they were worried about Frezzyy forcing the revive from that Khepri.
Surprisingly, no ultimates being exchanged by Lion Guard despite 2 from Team Dignitas, but that will open the door potentially for the Gold Fury if Lion Guard elect to flirt with that idea, especially with Zyrhoes not having much mana. This must be a rush for Gold Fury.
It could well be a rush for Gold Fury. We'll see if it actually ends up happening. Ducky, though, being pinned under his tower now by Variety, who's established a 2-level lead. Obviously, there's a minion wave waiting here for him right now. Ducky's trying to focus on to keeping Variety busy, and the minions too, because by hitting Variety there, the minions are no longer attacking the tower, and rather him.
This is what happens when your Soul Laner gets Breastplate of Valor complete. You have so much physical defense, you can tank the tower repeatedly, especially with the power cleave defensively from Tier. You're able to sustain any sort of damage you even take from the tower. 2 shots, it doesn't matter. If you're taking 3, then you're going to start slightly losing the exchange battle, but Variety is very used to this.
Very comfortable lead for Dignitas so far, though. 3,000 experience, 1,500 gold, and they've not really had to invest too much in this game so far to get to the stage. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Zyrhoes under a lot of pressure from FrostiaK. The Earthshaker came out from ShadowNightmare there, but it wasn't enough to bring down Zyrhoes, who escapes. He did have to use his Kraken, however.
2 ultimates being used defensively, so that's going to be a great opportunity for Lion Guard Guard to be able to start up the Gold here. They're still baiting a little bit. Frezzyy trying to find the root. Not going to be setting himself up for that abduct. And with the turret and FleuryQ, that's doing a lot of damage to the Gold here. We see both soul laners making their rotation, but level 12 on the side of Variety. If he wants to, he can easily back for this tier 2, his second relic rather, and start looking for some important team fights.
Are we expecting a blink relic on the tier? Because it's one of the standards, or are we going to see him go somewhere else? Maybe Sunder, maybe a little bit more sustain in terms of meditation for his team?
I would have liked to see a blink because the fact that Tier and Hun Bat synergize very well together in these mid to late game team fights. One's going to set up the beads burner while the other follows up shortly after. So that's what you're really looking for. And that's just going to be another secondary initiation for Variety. He's going to blink in and potentially Lawbringer out if he gets in danger.
Awkward situation for Lion Guard now as they pull the Gold Fury because Dignitas are about to hit power spikes in some items right now. Good up from Trixtank, and FrostiaK knocked into the air for the time being. It was Frezzyy who ate most of the damage from that whirlpool overall as Qvo continued to aggress onto FrostiaK, who's still alone. The snipes coming into play as well from Arkkyl, looking to clean this one up. Third hit, but it's not enough to bring him down. Zyrhoes, though, will get credit for the kill at the end, and pressure towards the Gold Fury again.
And the rotation from Variety making a huge impact. We see Ducky still on par despite not having the teleport. The Kraken is available for Zyrhoes. This Gold Fury should go the way of Team Dignitas.
Ducky going to show presence though and slow that idea down for the time being. Still respectful of ShadowNightmare. Remember, Vulcan is fantastic at securing objectives, and QvoFred is getting picked up for free. Somersault over the wall, but predicted. Not accurate though with the prediction, sadly, from either Ducky or ShadowNightmare. Ducky's was a little bit more trickier. ShadowNightmare's too, to be fair.
Unfortunate bounce coming on the side of Ducky, whereas the movement speed from QvoFred was able to outrun the distance that ShadowNightmare threw that ultimate. So great disengage. Very hesitant on using the beads right off the bat. Didn't truly respect the damage coming from Lion Guard. So with that, QvoFred is thanking his lucky stars that he survived that one.
But I mentioned a couple of the third items started to come online, at least second major items. Hydra's now online for Qvo, but Gem of Isolation more important for Zyrhoes in these engagements now. The extra slowing effect from that whirlpool is going to cause a lot more problems now for Lion Guard when they try to engage against him.
It is going to be indeed a blink on the side of Variety, trying to find that secondary initiation. Level 11 on the side of QvoFred, still working on his relic. We're seeing a lot of second relics on the side of Team Dignitas. That could also be a sign to be able to start up more Gold Fury attempts, because on the side of Lion Guard, they only have one person capable of getting a second relic, and he hasn't back to base yet to be able to pick it up.
Yeah, not just yet. I think he will do eventually when the time is right. If he shows face, then he's going to go back to base, though. I think they may try to exploit that, and that's why you see them generally go around the corner. At the same time, the purple's about to come up, so I don't think Dignitas will recognize that the dual lane hunter for Lion Guard is just recalled.
Arkkyl definitely saw the fact that FleuryQ backed during the lane, but electing to still continue to farm. He picks up, or he helps down the purple buff, going to clear the wave, and then maybe start looking for a rotation. We see a 3-on-3 in mid, and Arkyl's actually going to back to base instead of providing that semi-global pressure from his snipes.
Ducky's done pretty good work in that solo lane, though, after, you know, falling down a couple of times to get just within one level difference between him and Variety now, which is quite important heading into the later stages for the time being. Variety may be a little bit closer now, but there's a big rotation towards him on this right-hand side. But the moment the Earthbreaker misses, that's calling it a day.
Even if he did get hit by it, driving strike under the tower, he would sustain himself back up rather effectively. They're now making the rotation. We still see Ducky at level 12. Hasn't back to base yet for his second relic. Left-hand side, though, FleuryQ with a red buff on the Neith. Working like he's going to be building into a Fatalis, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, Fatalis. When you say surprisingly enough, what do you feel about that on Neith?
It's not really an in-hand-based god, Neith, so you're building Transcendence to maximize your damage. You're even going Warrior Tabby to get that extra 20 physical power, sacrificing the attack speed, sacrificing the 100 mana from the Ninja Tabby. But now you go from the ability-based build to transitioning it into a Fatalis.
Well, let's see if this Fatalis helps him here. It's not online just yet. The beads are online. The backflip is down. The monkey hits. The Aegis is used as well. So both those relics that he had available, both been burnt in that engagement. I think the real thing with the Fatalis, though, totally on the likes of Neith, it's more for escape than anything, to try and keep your distance away from some of the carries going at you. But it does limit Neith's potential in terms of damage, because she is very ability-based.
Absolutely. I don't mind the Fatalis here, because obviously Variety definitely wants to dive that back line. And the late game, as long as you're able to kite this tier, then you're doing your job rather effectively. But right now, at this point in time, his DPS is definitely going to get hindered up until these teamfights happen.
Well, not heavy amounts of kills in this one at 15 minutes in now, and it seems to be the case over in Europe now that GoldFury is treading a little bit thin in terms of wanting to risk going for it. Whether that's down to the fact that there's a lot of farm on the map anyway, and you can find that experience in gold elsewhere without having to try and risk that, or it's just a respect to the opposition team.
So laners still being big bullies. Variety is going to do a little bit of poke here. He wants to be able to try to get Ducky outside the tower, recognizing that he'll out-sustain him. And looking at the builds real quick here for these junglers. On the side of FrostiaK, going for this Jade Emperor's crowd, and that's a good idea to try to limit the physical power on the side of QvoFred and the Variety.
Yeah, it's basically, and also with Arkkyl as well, it will limit all three of them just by being in range of them. It is a pretty decent item for a Guardian jungler or a Guardian solo lane to look at picking up. It's not got a lot of power on it though, Tolly.
No, not at all. It's only 20 magical power, but you get a lot of physical protection. So you get 60 total physical protection. Not only that, you also reduce the physical power by 30.
FleuryQ. I think he's just got away with murder on that left-hand side if you're watching the minimap there, because he just ran between Arkkyl and Cuvo. Remember, he's got no relics available, and in the end, he still gets picked off. Could have run towards Frezzyy for the revive, but this time round, no dice. The way of Lion Guard, it goes to 4-1 now in favor of Dig, and they start up the goal.
Well-calculated timing and aggression from Dignitas, not forcing the goal here, but recognizing the earlier gank was not successful, but with all those relics down, like you mentioned, this set up the door for the Skullfear.
Well, they're looking to pick Variety on the right-hand side instead, though. The Abduct has been used. No Lawbringer escape available right now. Already bursted down. And that was more Lion Guard looking for the Portal Demon there.
Khepri is a great counter to tier here because during his passive, he's only able to get CC'd for a maximum duration of 1 second, but the Abduct is not going to be able to take into a factor with that tier passive.
Yeah, and now the Portal Demon is pulled, but 3 members of Dignitas are here to watch. Cuvo has no ultimate available, but Zyrhoes and Trixtank do. FrostiaK on zone duty, trying to keep them busy as Arkkyl is going to split push the left-hand side. There's Trix with the ultimate, going to slow them down. Zyrhoes, though, was trying to wrap around the back, and he's been pinched in a combination of errors. He can't run away. He gets a Kraken on 2. Zyrhoes duking out for his life right now. Meatball misses. Earthbreaker did some damage, but not enough as the driving strike now comes through. Portal Demon at half.
Finally, one victim does fall. Frezzyy taking a lot of damage. Trixtank does find the pull. Arkkyl making the important rotation. Root onto Trixtank. Here comes Variety with the double Fearless. The snipes coming from Arkkyl. Fear no evil. They find one onto Frezzyy, and now Ducky is running for his life.
Jumps over the wall as QvoFred trying to limit the options of escape, but overcommits a little bit more. Ducky is going to survive for now, and you can see that Arkkyl has to fall back to base here. So Dignitas only have 2 members really strong to be able to defend against this, and Lion Guard recognizing that they want to go for it again.
Well, Variety has the Lawbringer. He could initiate back into this. Trixtank is here. Here comes the Lawbringer onto Ducky. Fearless. Power Cleave sets it up for a nice pick, and here comes the rotation as well. QvoFred picking up the Portal Demon with Trixtank. It's almost at half health, and with Variety right around the corner with Arkkyl in the mid lane, this should go the way of Dignitas.
What a great play from Variety there, though. He could have Lawbringed onto the Portal Demon, and that's kind of what Lion Guard expected, right? He was going to Lawbringer the Portal Demon to look to clean it up. Instead, he looks for the weak health member, and surprisingly enough, it was one of the tankier members in the Hercules. Picks and cleans up the kill, and that does the work that he needed to do anyway, of making sure the Portal Demon didn't go into Lion Guard's favor.
Unfortunately, too much hesitation from Lion Guard, not able to really take advantage of Variety's pick off the bat. Zyrhoes was kind of dancing around quite long enough for the rest of his teammates to be able to clean up, and then Variety started respawning. He made his teleport, and he made his presence known, and Lion Guard dropping the ball on that Portal Demon slowly but surely. We see Team Dignitas with about a 6,500 gold lead.
Bit of pressure in mid lane now for Dignitas, as there's no respawn coming through just yet for ShadowNightmare to get over here, because there's a gank on the right side instead, looking for pressure on Ducky out of Dignitas. Fear no evil, perfectly placed for Ducky to get the full channel off it to negate most of the mitigate wounds from coming through, but the heal's still there, the shell as well, and now the turnaround could be here.
Variety trying to find the kill, not going to find it, but Trixtank is here. Wrath of Terror. Arkkyl finding the Vulcan. Trixtank finding Ducky. That's 2 kills for Team Dignitas. Fire Giant could be looked at. The Kraken's available for Zyrhoes.
Did ShadowNightmare go to duo lane there? It looks like he did and tried to box against Arkkyl, and Arkkyl 1v1'd him, from what I can tell, because ShadowNightmare fell down somewhere on the map, and when it was Arkkyl who got credit for the kill, he was in duo.
Yeah, level 15 Vulcan fighting against a level 18 Rama is not something you generally want to do. Still working on a lot of damage items. Doesn't have his penetration quite online yet. Only having Shoes of the Mad Guy truly. Now it's Team Dignitas still with a 5-on-3 advantage, 10 seconds before Ducky and ShadowNightmare respawn. And because of that, we see Arkkyl left-hand side. Nobody here in time to defend this.
No, he's going to be able to pick at this tier 2 tower now. FleuryQ is going to take the safe option because Trixtank is cutting him off in the jungle too. And by the time he gets there, the tier 2 has already fallen. The rest of his team, though, are grouping in mid, looking for picks.
That's what they should do because Arkkyl is now going to be making his rotation towards mid. FrostiaK is alone, leading the charge. And here comes the Fear No Evil trying to poke out FrostiaK. About half health right now. He had a rotation from Arkkyl as well, getting pulled from Zyrhoes, but the wall prevents him from getting pushed back.
The Fearless on 2 from Variety was good to force the Khepri ultimate, but now Variety's in a bit of trouble. Has to get away. Into the sky goes Arkkyl, looking to clean up some of these kills with the snipes. Everyone too high health for him to really bring down right now, but both teams in a decent position to continue this engagement if they so choose.
We see the sustain from Trixtank is going to be a big factor as Team Dignitas is going to regroup in that mid lane. We still have the ultimates from Ducky, ShadowNightmare, and FleuryQ. Kraken still available along with Wrath of Terror on the side of Team Dignitas. 2 big ultimate cooldowns. Team Dignitas still not going to let this one go quite yet, but Arkkyl is thinking about backing Golfier respawning in 20 seconds.
Well, back to the mid lane we go. Variety looking to wrap around the back one more time. Blink is available for him if he can find the opportunity now. Instead, he'll fall back. Both teams recognize there's nothing up in the jungle this second that they have to do anything about, so hanging mid is fine. Speed buff about to spawn for Dignitas, though, and the Gold Fury. It's probably time to make sure you get your wards ready to defend against it.
And it looks like that's where Lion Guard is going for all 5 members, rather. Neith is trailing right behind ShadowNightmare, but it looks like they're going underneath. They're looking for more of a pick more than anything else, with Gold Fury not being flirted with quite yet.
Steady performance from Dignitas here today, though. They've just steadily won this game, continued to keep the grind going in this one. Nothing extra special I've seen out of their playstyle, but they've done what they've needed to, and Lion Guard haven't really found the responses until maybe now.
Trixtank getting sundered, a lot of damage, but he's able to squeeze through the wall because Arkkyl broke it down. Double Fearless coming out of Variety, and that's going to actually be a triple as Ducky was in there. Arkkyl bouncing back away.
Good from FleuryQ, and that could be death for Zyrhoes, but the Aegis will come into play. Zyrhoes, meanwhile, picks up 1, as Zyrhoes now gets a double kill onto Ducky thanks to the help of the Whirlpool. Qvo's not done. He wants to keep the chase going, or at least force back the last 2 remaining members of Lion Guard there and secure Dignitas a free Gold Fury for the second time this game.
Overcommitment onto Trixtank to start things off. FrostiaK ultimate, Ducky used his Sunder as well, and they put themselves in a position where Variety was able to make a beautiful blink triple Fearless to set the rest of his team up for 3 easy kills.
Look at this though, Tully, straight to the fire giant go. Dignitas now looking to burst it down immediately and take even bigger win off this. Not just the gold, not just the fire giant, but maybe even a speed buff as well.
You could tell that this team is just so comfortable with each other, making these calls, not going to hesitate any step of the way, able to mechanically outplay you, just out-tactically maneuver you, as well as picking up these objectives. You could tell Team Dignitas is going to be a huge force to be reckoned with in the entirety of this SPL spring split.
11-3 at less than 24 minutes in this game now, and Dignitas with the fire giant on 5 members are starting to barrel down mid lane. There's only one tower remaining now for Lion Guard to defend, but it's on its last legs, and there it falls down. And still Dignitas now marching on, and with members in the left and the right hand side for Lion Guard, Dignitas can just get a free tier 2 in mid as well.
Nothing that Lion Guard can really do about this. 13,000 gold behind at this point, grabbing tier 2 mid, not elected to push down the mid Phoenix quite yet, wants to make the most efficiency out of this fire giant buff for another 3 minutes, grabbing the last remaining tower before they maneuver towards these Phoenixes, sitting on probably a lot of gold in hand that Team Dignitas could potentially back here and look to finish off some of their 5th slotted items.
Yeah, they're going to pick up the Portal Demon as well, just to make sure there's no real wraparound potential from Lion Guard there. But that noise that you heard in the background is the noise that everyone can hear on the map. It's one of the new noises in the Season 4 patch, which is all to do with knowing when the Portal Demon's down.
It's a big giveaway as well as you're doing the Gold Fury, or you potentially could set your team up to do the Gold Fury if you hear that Portal Demon go down. As long as you have one member scouting out and sniffing out the fire giant, that's all you really need to do. And with the Portal Demon giving 150 gold per player, as long as you're able to get the Gold Fury, you'll be able to slightly win that balance.
Well, over to the left-hand side go Dignitas now. It is the furthest lane away from the Fire Giant, one more difficult ones to defend if there is fire minions pouring into it. So getting this Phoenix on the left, much more important than the other two in the grand scheme of things to allow a 4v5 potential in favor on the Fire Giant on the next rotation if it's required.
A lot of mobility on the side of Zyrhoes between that Fatalis, and once he pops his Trident, having just so much movement speed here, Variety is grouped up, looking for a nice position to potentially look for that Blink Fearless. Trixtank could look to follow up as well. There's a lot of control from Team Dignitas, still having Fire Giant for another 2.5, or rather 1.5 minutes as they continue to start to siege this left side Phoenix.
Yeah, the wait for the full minion wave to come in, and QvoFred in the mid lane did push in a wave there to slow down ShadowNightmare from rotating. Shadow be happy to defend mid lane because he can still influence things with that big old Vulcan ultimate that can come flying across and get involved in this. And obviously the distance of that Vulcan ultimate gets more damage the further it goes.
Oh, nice pull onto Ducky, Wrath of Terror. Zyrhoes using his ultimate as well. The ultimate from Frezzyy keeping his Hercules alive. FrostiaK doing a good job zoning with those tremors.
Mid lane though, QvoFred is slowly whacking at this Phoenix on his own against ShadowNightmare, and Shadow can't answer back in time. Cuvo may die off this. No, he will get out as well. Meanwhile, the rest of his team now get the left one because everyone rotated towards mid.
Double Fearless yet again from Variety, still trying to bail out. QvoFred jumping away from FrostiaK, the route onto Variety. The rest of Team Dignitas are going to comfortably walk away after 2 clean Phoenixes. Very risky play from QvoFred, but he had a calculation tactic in mind where even whether or not he got the mid Phoenix, he was about to give up his life so that the rest of his team would guarantee getting the left side Phoenix. The fact that not only he got the mid Phoenix, but survived that whole encounter is just a cherry on the top.
Well, we're looking at we could get 2-0 stomps all day today. Not necessarily stomps, but closeouts from teams as Dignitas in this first game look very dominant here. Lion gonna have to correct things for game 2. What do you think they need to correct for game 2, Tolly?
At this point, it's just Team Dignitas being able to make the plays that they really need to. We saw that Ducky made a nice little cheeky play with the Sunder at level 2, but after that, there was just no real contest coming out of Liongard. The Vulcan from ShadowNightmare was not as impactful as the Kraken and the Poseidon from Zyrhoes
Blink
was.
Fearless onto FrostiaK, but he's quite a tanky target and goes straight towards Trixtank. The pull of the Abduct from Frezzyy, pretty good onto Variety, but there's not enough burst damage to bring him down. Arkkyl was a bit of an awkward spot there thanks to the walls that came out from FrostiaK, but his team did help him out as Trixtank only going to get an ult on Frosty, but this time he'll pay with his life.
2 ultimates being used to secure that first kill. Variety using the Lawbringer to get in, forcing the beats out of ShadowNightmare. The rest of Team Dignitas is going to be able to get that right side Phoenix. Titan taking a lot of damage so far from those fire minions, almost at about 50% health, but once the Titan finishes off with those fire minions and it resets, it doesn't gain health back. Only if a player is in the room does the Titan gain about 15% of its health back.
Well, right now it looks like Dignitas is going to play it super duper safe here. I think they could have ended there totally, but I think they wanted to play it very safe. Fall back, spend all the gold they just got from the last engagement, and might not just pick up the Fire Giant just to make sure you can close it out and have that extra regen and damage you get from it.
As well as starting to pick up the rituals. Full build coming out of Variety, as well as picking up a ritual. Looking at Arkkyl having a lot of damage here with this Deathbringer Wind Demon combination. Anyone that he goes on is just going to get absolutely melted here. There's only 1 level 20 on the side of Liongard, whereas we're already seeing 3, almost 4 from Dignitas.
Very strange build from FleuryQ in all when I'm looking through it now, because he went Fatalis, then into Chins as well, so he went for attack speed focus with a Transcendence, which is kind of a mixture of Neith overall, right? Like, you're not going to either strength or weakness of it.
You're more looking for the mana pool so you can spam the abilities with the Transcendence, but still having the mobility from the Fatalis as well as the attack speed. He recognized the fact that Variety Trixtank was just too tanky to really deal with, so he had to get the Chin size to be able to melt them down, but he also had to have a little bit of mobility to get away from the pressure.
FrostiaK pulled in, knocked up in the air with the ultimate, and bursted down by the whole team of Dig after the Fire Giant. It's already a 4v5 as a Fearless comes in Variety. Ooh, amazing Fear No Evil as well. 2 more quick kills, and this is pretty much a shut out here by Dignitas. Fantastic performance in game 1. Liongard, they've got to do some corrections for game 2 now.
Absolutely. This is going to put Team Dignitas in a pretty comfortable position now moving forward. They already... The Guard Esports, they found a split against Elevate. They 2-0'd Sanguine in the last week, but that was kind of a freebie for them, whereas the last week from Dignitas, they were also able to get the 2-0 victory against Cyclone GG. So now, this is very important to see which team is able to really continue the pressure here. You don't really want to walk away with an 0-2 if you're Guard Esports.
Definitely. It's all about